Okay, so in my last video, I had a discussion about respecting other people's opinions and hearing them out. And in this, I mentioned how I went to my old neighbor's house with a friend of mine. In the same afternoon, we had a different discussion that I want to talk about today, and that is about vices. Now, in my opinion, a vice is anything that you overindulge yourself in that is, to your knowledge, not very good for your health. Now, this might be going to the gym far too much, or eating unhealthy food, or me, like when I was very young, I overindulged myself in video games to the detriment of my health. And it was very unhealthy for me. It was not very good. And it took me a while to realize this, and I finally did. To which, instead of going on my Xbox far too much, I instead pick one day out of the week where then I indulge in my vice. And I've managed to control and manage how much I indulge in such a thing. And I only do it for roughly 8 hours out of an entire week, and only one day in the 7 days. Far better than what I used to, which was every single day. And that's what I want to talk about with these 3 specific ones, where I do have friends and family who have overindulged themselves in these specific 3 vices. And I wanted to talk a little bit about them. Now, the first one being smoking. Now, there are members of my family from, I'd say my father's side, who overindulge themselves in tobacco and smoking. And I do have friends who also do this. Now, they are aware that this is not very good for their health. And I know other people who, instead of smoking, vape. Now, again, this might be a safer alternative to smoking, but again, they don't know the long-term consequences of what they are doing. Now, I've mentioned to them that they don't need to do it all the time. They can do it when they're stressed or they're anxious or anything like that. And they get what I'm saying to them, and they have actually narrowed that down and managed to control how much they overindulge themselves in either smoking or vaping. And obviously the nicotine is a whole another ball game, and when it comes to nicotine specifically in vapes, I've told them that they can't just go full cold turkey. A friend of mine tried that, and he was going jittery and freaking out after a day of not vaping with the amount of nicotine that he had in it. So cold turkey is completely out of the question. So instead, what he did, he just lowered down the percentage of how much nicotine was in his vape, going from 30 down to 20 and gradually getting that lower and lower until finally he got down to, I'd say, 5%, and then vaping with no nicotine at all. And again, that's understanding how much you're overindulging yourself in your vice and managing it and controlling it to an acceptable degree. The second one I want to talk about is alcohol. Now, this is basically everybody, because alcohol is probably the most common drink that adults in their body. Now, I do have friends who overindulge themselves in alcohol, and I do have also family members who do the same. And I've mentioned to them that they don't need to overindulge themselves too much. So what they've done instead is, instead of drinking every single day, because I've had friends who have done that, they've drinking every single day, and then I go to visit them and they look like death. They look like crap, and it's horrible for them. So instead, they realize this, and what they've done instead is, instead of drinking every single day, they've either chosen to drink only on the weekend, so only 2 days a week, or they've chosen only to drink on very special occasions, such as parties or celebrations, stuff like that. And that's very good. They're managing how much they're consuming, and they're not making it worse. And then the last one I want to talk about is drugs. Now, drugs, I do have a friend who has marijuana, but this is mainly for his anxiety. He gets very anxious and it helps him sleep. Now, again, people do this because some people do it because it helps them, and other people do it because they're in the throes of addiction. And the second one isn't so good. But the people that do it to help them out with the stuff they're going through, then that's okay. But if you're overindulging yourselves in drugs and all that, then you can try to go cold turkey without it. But the main premise is to try to just minimize the amount of dosage that you're having. Now, again, I'm somebody who I don't indulge myself in any of these 3 things. I've never smoked, I've never done drugs. I've drinking once for my 21st that I had less than a month ago, and it wasn't my cup of tea. Alcohol just tastes horrible and I didn't like it. And again, that's just me. There are my friends and family who are on the other side of the boat, where they again have overindulged themselves in their vices. And I do know somebody, a female friend of mine, who has unfortunately gone through all three, where she started drinking, started vaping, and then later on got into drugs. And again, she has tried to go cold turkey and all that, and it hasn't gone very well for her. And so I've just had a talk with her just a couple days ago and mentioned to her that it's good that she's getting out of the drugs. She can minimize the amount of nicotine in her vapes, and she can drink smaller dosages of alcohol on very fewer occasions. And again, this is just my own personal experience with those of my friends and family. But the main premise of this is, if you're going to pick a vice, pick one. Don't pick all three, just pick one. And when you pick this one, try to manage the amount that you consume into a healthy amount. And that's all I wanted it to be, is that if you pick a vice, stick with one and have a healthy amount of it. So if this helps anybody, I hope it does, and I'll see you in the next one.